So let me get to the point and let's roll another joint and turn the radio loud. I'm too alone to be proud. You don't know how it feels. You don't know how it feels to be me. Oh, we got the tinfoil hat. We got the tinfoil jacket. Yes. Silence by the Lamb, by EMFs, by Eternals. There's a lot of talk about the signaling and all this kind of stuff going on right now. And the geofencing, and they know what's up with your IP address on your telephonic devices and all this kind of stuff. Well, the synagogue of Satan is trying to kill the saints. If only there was a book that told us this would happen. Perhaps, just maybe, all this is already known from the beginning of time. Now I've grieved the loss of the kinfolk. I am past that. We are in phase 2, Acts of Valor. Phase 2, Acts of Valor. Up next on the Big U, we will see the glory of God in all His goodness. And it's nice to have a nice little jacket. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so the company is Lambs, Lambs, but they got a new thing. Let's see if we can find it here. Haven, Haven, formerly Lambs. It still says Lambs on the tag. See? Lambs on the tag. Okay, so the silver lining. You know, there's a silver lining in every good thing, even if it's tested. You know what I mean? So, like, the silver lining in my jacket is real good, and I think it's got, like right here, when I hold this out, I can kind of see through it. So, that's nifty. And then if I, it's not a Faraday cage, okay? But they also have the, they got underwear, they got pajamas, the whole 9 yards. So outfit your people, okay? So if you're worried about, the end of the world and your Wii feet and all that stuff, and turn it off. Wi-Fi is sonar, like what sonar does in the water, it does that on the outside. Everybody knows that. When Dish Network came out, I walked outside of Curtis Snagle's house, I pointed at the dish, and I said, that's a targeting device for nuclear war. Just don't be a target to begin with, so that they don't put the red dot on you. I think red dot wasn't even a thing back then. I mean, this was big. It's something just like 10-foot diameter. I mean, like you had to have a post, like you're putting up a sign for a freaking truck stop. You know what I mean? And this was 92 in the woods, Oklahoma. You know what I mean? It looked like you were communicating directly with space. The big ones, not that little one you put on your house or whatever. The big one you put out in the yard. We parked a Bayliner boat next to it, and yeah, it was significantly bigger than the boat. Anyways, still there too, by the way. And it's been used, it's been converted to the, I'll say it out loud, I don't give a shit. The Citizens Band radio and the linear amplifier, and then you got there's a bunch of different bands and stuff like that or whatever. I don't know all the particulars of it, but I know there used to be, you could go anywhere USA and buy equipment and talk to people in Australia. They called it shooting the skip, which I hate that. Don't do that. Do not shoot the skip. But they bounce the signal off the ionosphere to get it to where it's going. They use it like a repeater. And then there is repeaters. And then about 10 years ago, they had this deal. They had the little 4 antennas. It was like $17 on Amazon. And you turn this thing on, and nobody's phone or nothing works close to that deal because it scrambles the signal because your telephone is really a radio. Okay? Now, they phased out using the radios in these trucks so much because the company, man, can't track and do mobile diagnostics and all sort of kind of stuff. If your vehicle is the year model 23 or older, everything you say and do in that vehicle is being recorded, more so than your phone. That's the reason why the cars got expensive and then they didn't get any better driving around. Before, they were focused on manufacturing, like your early 90s into the early 2000s. There was a big focus in the car industry of reliability for sales. Then they switched kind of to let it break, we'll sell parts. And now, for the last 10 years, it's been, let's put electronics in here so we can charge a subscription plan, watch everything, sell harvest data, blah, blah, whatever. And it's all leading up to there'll be a collapse, and then you got to take the mark of the beast or you can't work. They've already just come right out and said it in the UK. They're like, if you don't have a digital ID, you cannot go to work. So, it's here, you know what I mean? And, what are you going to do? How are you going to get by? And you're not. You're not. You will need a supernatural way of living that is set apart from anything to do with this phone. If you got anything to do with the phone whatsoever, you're beat. Period. I've looked at it. I've studied on it. I've come to grips with it. I've been through the mourning phase of losing it. Jesus told the rich man, he said something about sell everything you got, give it to the poor, and come and follow me. I think that's the answer. It's a narrow path, only if you can find it. The rich man, he bowed his head and walked away because he could not give up his riches. And that's where we're at. That is where we are at. And, so, I need to sell everything I got, move to the woods. Hey, I'm probably going to do that in the spring. To be completely honest with you. I'm going to go, like, full freaking, I might do the cash thing or whatever like that, but, yeah, I'm going to cash out and be on my way. And, I might still post some stuff, just for, I can't abandon my family. You know what I mean? And being out here driving around handing out these Bibles, in my estimation, is abandoning the family to reach the lost. I got a whole case of Bibles right there to hand out. That's my job. That's what I'm doing. If I lose my life, yeah, and if I seek to save my life, I'll lose it. So, should I just keep handing out the Bibles? Well, maybe. I mean, I just got to walk in obedience. Right now, when I pray, he's like, work where you work and do what you do. So that's why I'm working and doing what I do. And I recommend that. There's no better plan than that. But if you think for half a second, I see one guy, he had a bunch of rope talking about getting the robots all bound up in it and stuff when all the Terminators come after us or whatever like that. Well, I'm out here driving around, right, and it's very obvious that there is these places that have 6-story buildings. And it's just like, what is all these apartments? They're everywhere, and then you won't see shit for a long time. You drive a long ways, then there'll be another spot. And they got the League of Bears and the 15-minute cities and all sort of kind of stuff like that or whatever. And I think that when they turn the power off and turn it back on, and they're gonna, I think when they turn it back on, I don't think that fix it on a bird, and don't worry about it. All right, nothing you can do. Pray about it and ask God to figure out what you need to do specifically. You specifically, what you need to do. That is the key. That is the key, because man, He's going to call some people to just, make the best nuts and bolts. And if that's you, man, make nuts and bolts, man. Make them good, make them strong. Use the best, source of alloys. And unbustable nuts. You know what I mean? It's just perfect, zero tolerance threads. And just get her done, son. You know what I mean? If that's what you're called to do, and you have to be excellent in your calling. You have to be above reproach in your calling. And all this, vision board talk and stuff like that or whatever, that needs to be full focus on God. What does God want me to do? 100%. All the feelings of celebrity needs to be focused fully on God. All your waking hours, you need to be looking at something. If you notice it, what does God think about this? Come to that determination for yourself. Then think about anything else. Other than that, hey, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And what it is a giant distraction. It's a giant distraction from God. That's what all stuff is. And when we leave this earth, we will be in the presence of God. Some for just a very short while, and it gets bad. Very bad. And for others, it will be off the chart good. Gooder than good. It'll just knock your socks off good. You know what I'm saying? Just, man, it's going to be great. And, that's where our focus should be. Most of the time. Most of the time. And do we want to be healthy and, restore carcass to fully operational for the long term, to be the most effective in bringing glory to God? Yes. Absolutely yes. And then, knowing the things that we know, all right? And have the book right there to read it, and to know that that's coming, and to know that that's going to happen. And knowing the season when it's going to happen. Not necessarily the hour or whatever else like that. Why would God make it like that? Why would God not allow us to, if he give us prophecies and all that kind of stuff, why didn't He just tell us straight up what's up? Who is the synagogue of Satan? Who is that? And how would we recognize that? And how can we tell the difference between right and wrong? You know what I mean? How do we know all of that? And it comes down to every man. And there's a level of belief involved. Sure. But there's overwhelming evidence everywhere you look. Especially if you'll just examine yourself and look back into your past. The overwhelming evidence. You know what I mean? And then you think to yourself, could a fallen angel do that? Is that possible? You know what I mean? And then how would I know the difference? And I wrestle with that. I don't talk about this very often. But I'm like, okay, so Jesus either is who He says He is, or He's like Satan trying to steal God's glory. There's really there's no other way about it. And then I start looking into what the fallen angels were capable of. You know what I mean? We're out here in the wilderness, you know what I mean? And for that one guy, they said, well, what was his sin? Because Jesus healed him or whatever. They're like, he's been fucked up since he was born. And Jesus healed him. Well, is it possible that a binding spirit entered this dude at birth, and then just at the coming of the Jesus, but they're really on the same team? He's like, hey, get out of there. You see what I'm saying? That's totally possible. That's totally possible. And it's completely 100% possible. See, I was raised at the end of the all suspect. So how do I know? How do I know? Because I can't just believe. I have to know. Well, pursue it and see who shows up. And if you don't have that, then are you worthy of it? Like, what is your worthship? What are you doing? God looks down on 8 million people. What makes you think He's going to pick you out and give you an assignment? What makes you think that? What? I mean, like, for real. I mean, seriously. This is my wrestling. I don't talk about this very much. Why would God look down over creation, like, throughout time, and be like, skips the one right before the fall, that's going to get on a cellular phone and tell everybody to read the Bible? You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, why would He do that? You see what I'm saying? And there's a few indicators that we see in the Bible of how He picks people out. The overwhelming number one is willingness to do it. So I'm fucking stupid enough, I'm audacious enough, I'm motherfucker enough to be like, fuck y'all. You know what I mean? And to the authorities. You know what I mean? And the world is controlled by Satan. So I have to be a little, rebel from them and do it right by God. And then I just made a video where I was talking about a time when God was testing me. He told me to fast, then He told me to break the fast. And there's something in me that's tenacious, okay? And everybody's got that. Everybody has these attributes, but some are more than others, and we are created for the purpose, okay? And I have seen things where I know it ain't supposed to be like that, but it by God happened. I've seen it. I lived it. I forgot more miracles that I can quote you right now. And that's bona fide, 100% true. Because, yeah, it's so many. And then there's the little miracles that we all see every day and take for granted. Okay? So stop taking it for granted. Do you have a conscience? Like, where did that come from? Do you have consciousness? You understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Oh, smoky. Anyway. So, how do you understand it? What is consciousness? You see what I'm saying? And you get all this stuff, you get your headspace way out over here, looking back down at itself, then you wonder, why, God? Why me? And then come out here on this road and drive around and meet these people. And it's like, okay, yeah, they don't care. They don't. They are shit. I mean, like, overwhelmingly, most people are terrible. And myself included at times. So, this qualifier stands out. Absolutely stands out. Like, you have to have a willingness to do it God's way. Okay? And then that opens it up where He can come into your life, man. You can't do it any other way. You know what I mean? And it's so cliche that most people just overlook it or whatever. Oh, it's one of them things. And then this next generation, they didn't hear it. So they're just beat, you know what I mean? Because they got enough sense to pour piss out of the boot, you know what I mean? They don't even know why you'd piss in your boot, So, anyway. It's to kill bacteria in the boot, by the way. Just in case you didn't know that, like, if you're in the apocalypse walking, you get athlete's foot, go ahead and piss in your boots, okay? So, you want to be around humans that are super resilient. That's why why you should look at the end of the Trail of Tears. Yeah, where's the nukes going to hit? Yeah, where's the fallout? Where's the this? Where's that? Where are the people that understand barter and can live off of barter under harsh conditions? You know what I mean? Other than that, it's like, move to a different, get out of the United States. Like, just get out. You know what I mean? That's a solid option. But where? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? And you're fucked when you get there. So, when the rest of the world thinks it's your fault anywhere else, you see what I'm saying? Like, you're beat. You're beat no matter what you do. You're beat no matter what you do. There's no angle that this works out for anybody, bro. Anybody. That's why it's the end. You know what I mean? The fucking end. The fucking end. Okay? So, the end. The judgment day. That's where we're at. Be very clear about this. Be very, very clear about this. 2025, October 9th. Tinfoil coat. I think I'm going to get the britches too. I think I am. I believe it was $500 for the hat and jacket, $400 or $500, something like that. It protects against the EMFs. And if I'm going to walk home in the apocalypse, and not put off a signal that's targetable by a drone, you know what I mean? Like, how are you going to do that? And then how am I going to walk in front of the police and then look at me and be like, he's not a threat? You see what I'm saying? So you want to have you want to have some facials, you know what I mean? And you want to have some. Well, if you got a hat and glasses, you're like, what do I really look like? Like, with the beard comes on a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're a sketch artist, draw me right now. Screenshot this picture, and then draw who I am. Where are my eyes looking? You know what I mean? Am I looking at the camera? Am I looking at the road? What's happening? You see what I'm saying? So this camera right here in my face, it's watching everything like that. Does it see what's going on? You know what I mean? Do I even need these glasses? You know what I mean? Can I see this? Can I see this movement? Right here? I can see that. Because from right here over, it's got a reflective. From here, right here over. It reflects behind me. So, I can see behind me. I have mirrors on my fucking head. Like, you look at the mirror to see behind you. I'm wearing those. That's why I'm wearing glasses. Like, why are you not wearing glasses? It doesn't matter if you need glasses. You need glasses. It's a very important part. And then you'll see people that wear glasses for protection, and then they're wearing something that goes all the way around. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I mean, like, here's your next product idea. Mirrors for your freaking glasses so you can see in your peripherals what you're doing. See behind you. I guess, if you actually made them like that on purpose where everybody noticed, it would kind of take away from it, I guess. But if you just go and you get the prescription lenses, just go to the doctor and just get the widest frames they got. It kind of works out on its own. And there's some coatings that you can put on them and all this kind of stuff. Leave that off. Most of that's to stop reflection. You want the reflection. You can see. Anyways. I don't think that that anything's that bad if we have the cell phones still working. But the day the music died and they were singing Bye Bye Miss American Pie, you're not going to be able to drive nowhere because the road's going to be jammed up. You know what I mean? And, pick your apocalypse, watch the movie, see the stuff. doesn't take a whole lot to superheat Yellowstone. You know what I mean? Like, just, space-based laser targets freaking, old faithful. They just pow after a while. You know what I'm saying? Like how long would that take? And who would notice before it exploded? How much water does that area need to lose before the cooling effect stops for the super volcano to erupt? Not a lot actually. That's an interesting situation there. But as far as the reality of a civil war or whatever like that, the enemies within the United States are stronger than what's necessary. Okay? So they would have already destroyed the United States if that's what they were going to do. That's not their goal. Their goal is to take out the real Christians. You got to remember, they work for Satan. They work for Satan. That's it. That's what all this is. That's what all the hubbub and the lead up to and all everything, that's what they're doing. They're getting ready to round us up and cut our heads off. And I'll just get to chopping, I guess. You know what I'm saying? But, you're going to earn it. You're going to earn it. That's all I got to say. These cops and everybody, they are real good at, pull you over, write you a ticket, and all that type of stuff. They're basically a hall monitor for the kids that will comply. Okay, once you get to the next step past that, and we're seeing that a little bit in the protesters and stuff, and they're just soft-headed or whatever, and caring, you know what I mean? They're not super trained to actually get her done or anything like that. And even the ones that have some training, they don't have the experience, man. They don't really know what they're doing there either. So you take somebody that's, I can rule a nation from incarceration. 30 years is what I'm facing, and that type of stuff. But you take that to a level of Genghis Khan determination and just lack of give a shit. And then you take the modern training from, there's a significant amount of Americans that they're just leave me alone, freaking John Rambo style, and they're afraid that they're going to get together and thwart the government. And the government works for Satan, okay? So a lot of these guys will fall in with the lose your head crowd of believers just because they're there. You know what I mean? They're just going to be not mine. This is my swamp. You know what I mean? And they'll put up a certain resistance that will fall in line with the Christians. But it's the real Christians that they want to kill. And if you just get a box of Bibles and drive around.
There are police reported ahead.
They drive around them.
There are police reported ahead.
Let's ask this thing a question. Is it illegal to hand out Bibles and confess Jesus in Israel? It is not illegal to hand out Bibles or confess Jesus in Israel, as freedom of religion is constitutionally protected. However, proselytizing is subject to specific limitations under Israeli law that applies to all religions. Public expressions of faith. Israel's laws protect freedom of worship, and preaching Christianity in public is generally considered a form of protected free speech. Handing out religious materials. Distributing Bibles or other religious texts is legal as long as it does not violate laws against a document or target a Israeli penal code and apply equally to all religions, including Christianity. Offering material benefits. It is illegal to offer any kind of material inducement, such as money, gift, or other reward in exchange for a person converting their religion. Proselytizing to minors. It is a crime to attempt to convert a minor under 18 without the consent of their parents. Political context and proposals. Well, I'm very worried about that. So, there you have it. You know what I mean? Like, depending upon the situation, you know what I mean? If I'm standing out there and I'm like, I'll pay you $5 to read this Bible, and the dude's 17, I could go to prison for that in Israel. I could go to prison for that. You know what I mean? It's their country. They can do whatever they want to do. You know what I mean? I ain't got nothing against them. I really don't. Actually, when I see the people that's got the long hair in the front, I'll give them $20 because there's a promise in the Bible that says, be good to his people, and he'll be good to you. You know what I mean? It's like, that's better odds than a lottery ticket, in my estimation. So, I mean, like, you know, when I see one, I'm like, here's $20, bro. They're like, what's this for? I'm like, you're a Hebrew, ain't you? They're like, yeah. I'm like, cool. Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you for Jesus. Tell Abram I said, what's up? Or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I'd give a dude $20 and just had a sign that said anything else. I mean, like, you know, spread it around a little bit. Doesn't matter. Well, what does it matter? It's all going to burn up anyway. It's all going to burn up anyway. That's why I just laugh. These people are like, okay, like, I was really, really, really poor. And a long ways from town. So, it's like, you know, eat some fucking grasshoppers, bro. You're not poor until you are catching grasshoppers for fish bait and then walking to go fishing so hungry that you eat the bait. And I've been there, done that, okay? So, I don't want to, yeah, like, I'm telling you, I know what poor is. And y'all ain't poor. You're not poor. So when inconvenient comes, you'll think it's crisis, and then you'll sell your soul for part of the beast. Or maybe we already did, because like a birth certificate. You know what I'm saying? So, like, did mom and dad get tricked and I'm a slave to the United States and INC? And somehow, like, when they took the blood from my heel and sent it to Switzerland, I was registered as a, you know, whatever. And then, like, they based the whole economy on taking my money, extracting wealth from my soul because they own my soul. Yeah, kind of. You know, like, actually, yeah, that happened. You know, for me, it was in 1979. It may have been different for you. Hopefully you're Amish, but if you're seeing this, then yeah, you're kind of fucked. You're just like the rest of us. So, I found that out. I was in jail. And I was talking to this dude. I was like, you have a bank account? Yeah. Mortgage? Yeah. Electric bill? Yeah. What part of the system are you not a part of? Oh, and they said they didn't fight war, and they wouldn't fight, and they didn't vote. I was like, so you won't help kick anybody's ass if they need it, and which makes you a puss, and then you won't vote for who's deciding who to fight. So you're an idiot. So you're not the brain, you're not the fist. You're just all like legs and ass. You know what I mean? And then, but you're totally tied up in all these systems. You know what I mean? You got this phone number, bank account, whatever. You got all these different systems. And this dude's just neck deep in the system. You know, time goes by. You know what I mean? I'm done with the outlaw stuff. I got, you know, get a bank account, you know, move to Texas, get a haircut, get a real job, clean my act up, you know, don't be a slob. I got it together. Like that one dude, Bob, he's got a haircut, he's got a real job. Anyway, I was fighting for my right to party before that, but the entire time I was registered for the selective service. I had a birth certificate. You know what I mean? The reason why they're, I mean, if you look, they're undocumented. They're rounding up the undocumented. They're rounding up the undocumented, bro. And the citizens are cheering for it. What is that? Take a step back from this and look at what's going on, bro. Read Revelation again. Just do an audio book, you know, drive to grandma's house this weekend, tell the kids to shut the fuss up, tell the wife to quit fussing, shut the fuss up, and just play the book of Revelation, and just drive, and make them listen to it. Play it through the car speakers, it's right there on YouTube, it's free. You'll be blessed if you do that. I guarantee you, blessed is the one that reads this book, and blessed the ones that hear it. Don't add to it, don't take away. Just be like, this is what we're doing. Listen. You know what I mean? Bring a fly swatter, just swat them a little bit. Or get one of this. I told my wife the other day, she kept talking over me. We were arguing. I was like, I can't finish the sentence. I'm like, I'm going to get one of them spray bottles. And when I'm talking and you start talking over me, I'm just going to squirt you like a cat. I mean, sometimes I'll make these videos, man, and that GPS will start talking over me. I'm like, so I start doing that when she talk over me. I'll be like halfway through a sentence, and I'm like, hopefully, eventually, like she'll get the facial expression. I'm just like drastically trying to stay on topic before it changes to this, to that, to this, to that, to this, to that. Circle back around to why is this messed up? But mostly because we're not actually solving shit. We just have this, you know, defensive recall history. We just want to thoroughly explain what just happened in the present to mid history. So listen to Revelation, just drive, put them in the car and say, this is a surprise. Hey, just get in the car, get to driving, and say, you'll know when we get there. Hey, just drive and like feed them real good, make sure everybody's happy. Stop to pee when anybody needs to pee. You're just driving to play out the book of Revelations. However long that takes is however long it takes. But don't tell them. And when you get to the end of Revelation and it's over with, take the next exit, let everybody have a potty break, whatever, and then get back in the car, start heading home. I just have that road trip with them and just let it sink in. Let that sink in with the whole family. It's a road trip that you'll be glad you took. When you're standing in front of Jesus on Judgment Day, and this part comes up about this road trip, you'll be glad you did. I promise. I promise. That is a solemn promise. On Judgment Day, you will be glad you did that. Day of, not so much. It has its, enemies. They will flare up and try to distract. Don't let it. Don't let it. Take everybody's device, you know what I mean? Put it in the Faraday cage. And just freaking revelation. And just road trip reveal. And then drive back and just let everybody talk about whatever. Just let that happen organically. And feed them again real good when you get home. Make sure that the flesh is satisfied with whatever they want. You might even start out the drive, what's your favorite meal? And let everybody say, well, I like this, I like that, whatever. And then act appropriately on the way back. You'll be glad you did. You'll be very glad you did. We got a narrow window of time for family right now. It's all about the family right now, and the whomsoever will is critical. You have to put yourself in the position for receiving, and I don't know of a better time. I guess it's because you're in your own little vehicle, your little cabin, your little space. Traveling, so like, you're kind of looking at stuff or whatever, you know what I mean? But there's a time and a place for everything, and a road trip with the kid folk is very special. It is a set apart time, and a guy told me in jail, he said, everywhere you go, there you are. Everywhere you go, there you are. So you need to be comfortable with yourself. You know what I'm saying? So there's like sitting in silence. There's like these breathing techniques, all these other different things that you can do, right? There's personal study time, read the Bible and stuff. And there's the driving. And while you're driving, and it's just you and God, you have an opportunity, you can turn the radio off. You can inquire of God. Hey God, what do you want me to know today? What do you want me to share with your people? These humans that you give me stewardship with and influence with, not over, with, you know what I mean? And you'll find God showing you certain things, certain moments, and just start honing that skill. I started to stay behind the truck a while ago, and I just do pass them. So I passed. You know what I mean? I didn't think twice. I didn't know the reaction or the consequences thereof. None of that. I just took time. I checked my mirrors, changed lanes, passed, got back over. Haven't thought about it again since now, and this was before the video started 45 minutes ago. Okay, so this in the moment, focus on God. What does He want me to do? You know what I'm saying? What does He want me to do? And I like to watch a variety of YouTubers and try to assist. I call it juicing the crowd. You know what I mean? But I want to assist. You know what I mean? And that's where my heart's at. But I'll be driving and I'll stop somewhere and talk to some person, and it's real personalized for that person in that moment. And it kind of happens for the kid folk as well. And some of this stuff is for the YouTube stuff. And then the YouTube hates me. I'll get 13 subscribers over the weekend and then have, 3 less on Tuesday. You know what I mean? Because it's just as subscribing people and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I'm amazed anybody listens to anything. I find it amazing. I'm actually amazed. And I know that these things are so long and drawn out. But if I learned anything from my dad, it's that when you're talking to somebody and it goes on and on and on and on, a certain amount of people quit. they'll go on about their business. And then you can talk to the real ones after that. And that's it's similar to Jesus was up there and he's like, you gotta eat my flesh and drink my blood. And most of the people got left. They're like, this dude's nuts. And then he looked at the disciples and he said, well, aren't you guys going to leave too? And they said, well, you have the words of life. Where would we go? And they stuck with him. And he was able to explain to them further some of the situation. Okay, so there's something about the pursuit. You know what I mean? Like, my wife is a tough nut to crack. I mean, you are really going to have to be somebody to pry out of her information. Like, it's just the way she is. You know what I mean? And it's pretty cool. And sometimes we need to be told no, and that's okay. And it's okay to hear the word no. And but if you go along, and I've been along with her for long enough now that things will come up. She's like, I said that 5 years ago, and I'm like, well, I've done these things since then. So here's this, that, and the other, And is this not the goal you said? So like, why are you not happy that it's what you said you wanted 5 years ago? And now here it is, like the, don't eat bologna and white bread or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, fix your diet type stuff. Now here I am with a fixed diet. And she's like, I told you that years ago, calm down. I'm like, why are you still grinding? I did what you said. So there's that, which is typical marriage stuff. You gotta take that with a grain of salt. But then there's other stuff like not sex, but real intimacy. So this intimate knowledge of who each other is. You know what I mean? Who she really is. And being able to tell the nuance from mood and personality. And then hearing harshness, knowing that ain't true. And she don't really feel that way. She's just mad saying something because, I made her mad. And she's like, reactionary, emotional outburst. You know what I mean? And, which is good. I remember I made her mad one time, and I plainly heard in my head, there's the fire pointed the right direction. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, I'm a steward to help her have fiery, targeted prayer. You know what I'm saying? It works. It works. And then, like, I've said it on camera. I don't know how many times we did this by secret women. And the childlike faith and the prayers and stuff are enormous. And there's like Dennis calls the churches. Like, he gets numbers in his head and he just dials them, and it'll be a church somewhere, and then he'll target it, look up churches and call and everything. But the man spent thousands of hours encouraging pastors to keep going. You know what I mean? And it's who does that? You know what I mean? And then so being able to just make sure that guy's phone never gets turned off. And he breaks phones nonstop. So I'm like, Dennis, let me see the phone. It's got a crack in it. We're buying a new phone today. You know what I mean? It just pisses my wife off. She's like, stop buying this guy phones. He spent $3,000 on phone. And these phones are like $200, by the way. And she's like, he spent $3,000 on Dennis having a telephone. And I'm like, he's probably stopped like 5 churches from collapsing. You know what I mean? Like, That's a small price to pay. And then, like, I'm laying up treasure, you know, because those doors at that church didn't close. That guy that was, you know, suicidal behaviors, you know, is repenting now. You know what I mean? And if just one person, you know what I mean, is better off because that church is open, and I had something to do with that. If it's just buying Dennis a phone, then yeah, like, what's the money for? Whose money is it anyway? Like, what am I actually doing? You know what I mean? And then the thing about they say there's something about a blessing, like your storehouse runs.
There are police reported ahead.
And a guy said to me one time, he said, well, do you have a savings account? I'm like, no. And he's like, why not? I was like, because it's an extra fee for holding my savings there, and then it's very volatile as to, you know, if the bank folds up, am I going to get that money back? You know what I mean? If I put $10,000 in this CD or whatever, or a savings account or whatever, but what if I took that $10,000 and I invested in an orphanage? You know what I mean? Like, these kids might go on to the new earth. That CD might give me a little bit of money, but I already wasted that year with it sitting there idle. It don't make no fucking sense. You know what I mean? And then, like, some of the best investments is like, you know, freaking AI and bombs. You know what I mean? Like, you know, fast airplanes, bombs, you know, warfare and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't want to invest in Raytheon.
There are police reported ahead.
I don't want to invest in blowing people up. I don't want to be associated with that at all. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, it's got its time and its place. But for me, I don't want that. I don't want nothing to do with that. You know, I mean, dude, I made bomb casings at the foundry in Pryor, Oklahoma. They sent it down south to McAllister and Arkansas, and sent it yonder and blow people up with it. I mean, I'm not innocent. I'm not innocent. I need Jesus too. I mean, under the wrong circumstances, you know. So I wake up in the middle of the night and 5 dudes are crawling in here to dispatch me. They will encounter resistance to the best of my ability. I promise. It's not gonna work out. What they say, if I'm going, we're all going. Dad's got that. He's got that deal. He calls it God. He's like, I'll introduce him to God to come down here. You know, and that's his plan. He's like, I'm too old to run. He's like, well, I'll shoot the ass off of him, and, you know, I'm not going to go captive. I'm going to go
in 2 miles. Take exit 86B for I-26 west toward Columbia.
He's got the pink mist doctrine. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I pity the fool that goes to Ticker Tube and tries to take out Dad. Like, dude, it will be the last thing they do. For sure. Anyways, it's so funny. I'll see these parts of these movies and stuff happens where else like that. You'll see like the dude goes to sees his daddy and seen in years or whatever. They're like in the woods, and you know, here comes all these people trying to get after him. All these things start happening, and it's just like. I was sitting there watching a movie with Dad one time, and I was showing him that. I was like, man, look at this. And I was like, oh, you're going to love this. And he's just pointing out the ways they could have done it better the whole time. He's like, well, if they'd have waited for this and then that. You know, he's just like, go
In
here.
half a
In half a
mile,
mile, take exit 86B, Fry 26 West toward Columbia.
I guess we're all going to stop in the middle of the road. That's a good idea. Anyway, so I'm watching this stuff and I'm just like looking around or whatever. And it's like, how long does it take? You know, and like, when did they start watching it? You know what I mean? So like, I think right now we're at the season to where like, you know, somebody
Take exit 86B.
and they were going to be all slick and try to get ready to, you know, fight the powers that be. You know, I'm watching these executives.
Continue on I-26 West for 117 miles.
And Trump's, he's wrote a whole bunch of them, and I think he's just now starting to write the good ones. They really will matter. And I think people are crazy if they think there's going to be another presidential election where he is not the president no more. I don't even think that's going to happen. I'll just keep it real. I don't even think that's going to happen. I think we'll be under a whole different governmental system by then. It's going to get real bad after that. Bad. Real bad. Anyways, without saying too much, I think they did some stuff about the financing of the leftists. If you look into, if you're a man from the internet, and you might know some dance monkeys, I would highly encourage the study of the recent there's a recent deal about the executive orders and the financing and everything that goes back behind. So the funding and stuff, the street level rioter, the organization of the street level, the organization of the manufacturing of the riot signs and stuff like that, and this whole infrastructure behind what we've all been seeing. There's some orders that are highly interesting about that, and they are worded in a way that is critical for the upcoming season. And it's just a minefield, man, and you got to know where to step and where not to step. And the fact of our current situation, you know, with the political powers and stuff, you know, because like the climate changes, you know what I mean? So like, if you're a white Christian male with a family, you've been under attack for 10, 12 years. Okay, this is the soft push. Okay, and now there's some pendulum swung the other way. So the political climate has changed, and you don't want to be out there on X and all this other bullshit real hard-nosed because you're just making yourself a target. That's all it is. You're just making yourself a target with little to no gain in the enemy, but significant gains in the kinfolk. You know what I mean? So that's why you see this channel here. This is about significant increase for the kinfolk to be law-abiding citizens and to be harmless as a dove and wise as a serpent, and to have a meekness that is unsurpassed in their immediate environment. So that ain't nothing to sneeze at. And you know, every farmer is a prepper. Like, we're getting prepared for winter. Like, get some Visqueen to cover up the windows. I mean, yeah, like, it's pretty basic stuff. And then if you have the ability to find the old gas stations, I don't even think there is any anymore. But if you can find the old gas stations on the old routes, those will be the new that'll be how we get around. So when you're driving by and you see that old gas station, if you can purchase that. It has historically been a route. Okay, so once these interstate system is compromised and you got to go from A to B, then those gas stations that are abandoned right now, they'll be what people use, and that's a great place for the barter, and that's a great place to stage the checkpoints and everything like that. So on the one hand, am I going to be some kind of warlord? Probably not. But do I want to possess this strategic point so that I can make sure the good guys have access and the bad guys do not, type of deal. And in the meantime, like, it's a great investment because, you know, if it's the Lord's will that this thing goes on 30 more years, then that will increase in value and stature and all kinds of stuff like that. So at that point, freaking farmers market with local butcher. Okay, think local butcher. So if you got this gas station that's dilapidated, it's kind of set up to do commerce and stuff like that. There's probably parking facilities, whatever, and you just, you know, set up a freezer, cold storage, meat locker on property in the back. Now you can, you know, walk in there. Here's a deer. Here's my cow. Whatever. Johnny takes it to the back, knocks it in the head, process, hang it. You know, and now we got local meat for sale, and you can do that. And just once a month, have a USDA guy come out and certify all of it and make it completely legal and legit. Like, there's no reason not to. There's no reason not to at all. And the dilapidated old gas station is the best place to do that. In my estimation, it'll vary from place to place. Sometimes it's better to build on new ground. I get it. But everybody was stopping there for a reason historically. You know, they were getting their kicks on Route 66 and Highway 40 came in, sure. But the surrounding people in the area, yeah, especially, I'm going to say, from Oklahoma east. You know what I mean? You got population density to consider when you're figuring that out. But, man, I'm telling you, if you get the industrial diesel motors, I think you can still get it for fire suppression. You can buy a brand new Cummins for fire suppression that has no DEF or nothing. And I think that if you have a gas station, you can acquire fire suppression and then turn around and use the gas station to sell gas. And now you always have a tank of gas. And now you have your backup and all that kind of stuff. And then you have your mechanical diesel non-emissions. I think it's a fire suppression system. We're like this, the room it's in is on fire, and this motor will still run, pressurizing the fire suppression system. And I could be wrong on this deal. It might be a standalone. It might have electronics on it. I don't know. But the 3406 Caterpillar is one of them. Any of your Caterpillar and Case heavy equipment that's 1990 or older, you're just looking for mechanical diesel, and then your diesel storage, and then your diesel manufacturing. Like, what do I got to do to change this watery crude oil to diesel fuel? You know, I want my Go Juice, and I want it now. How am I going to do that without the use of money? Right now, I have the use of money, So how am I going to do that without the use of money? And then outsourcing the people, connecting the dots. Like, if you got big money and you got big leverage, bro, this is the time. This is the time. You know what I mean? Like, dude, if I die owing money, I'm dead. I'm dead. Okay? So if I invest and I do this and I do that and I'm good with money, you know what I mean? They say a good man leaves a legacy for his grandchildren. Okay. We'll set this thing up to where if it goes for 25 years, you know what I mean? But if war and collapse happens in 2 years from now, and we're all going to die, well, you just leveraged and pulled, you know, all this money out of the system while it was available. That would be shrewd. Okay? And then if you took this fiat currency and obtained, you know, tobacco, and you're able to outfit your, you know, Ford truck, you know, your F-550, you know, your Chevrolet Kodiak and backhoe, and you got, you know, 18 tires, plus the tires on it's brand new, and all your rubber components, and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And you're ready to do things, you know? And then there's like the man portable stuff, you know, and you're ready to do things like that, you know? If you got the means to leverage, and you're convinced that you can make sense. You know what I mean? Like, if you went out and got Mack trucks and roll-off containers and just started a trash service, how many people need a trash service? Like all of them. Like Waste Management is one of the biggest companies in the world. You know? And LLC this deal, get the trucks, equipment, blah, blah, and everything else like that, leverage to the max, and extract the goodness and let it fold up. Let it fold up. Who cares? You know how many people come into this country and start? They'll come over here from India. They'll start a trucking company, and they'll get these trucks and they'll get these contracts, and they'll be running and going and doing it. And there'll be a brokerage and everything else like that, and they'll get $2, $3, $5 billion in debt, and just close the company and let the repo bank come get the equipment. And they didn't run off with all the money. You know, they got $2, $3 billion that they extracted. It happens every day. It happens every day. I mean, it literally happens every single day. You'll see the carriers coming in on the market and going off the market. 600-700 carriers go out of business every day. 600 or 700 carriers start out new every day. There's some Billy's over here, and he goes out of business, and now John goes back into business, but Billy and John are sitting at the same desk they've been sitting at this whole time. And that desk is in freaking Ukraine. There's whole business models of bringing migrants over here and working these people for next to no money, and they're not paying into Social Security or anything else like that. They're running past the hours of service, so they're taking these loads for $1.50 a mile, and just because they have no intention of doing anything right, none whatsoever. So if I just leverage and do the best I can to provide for my family and ride out the apocalypse, you know what I mean? If that involves, you know, starting some gas station, I mean, Yeah, but look at how look at the quickie part of the business plan. You know, here's this dilapidated truck stop, gas station, whatever. They go in there, they try to make it work. Where are they getting the money for that? Where do you think they're getting the money for that? They're pulling it out of these trucks. They're pulling all that money out of these trucks. This is a vehicle. This is a financial vehicle I'm driving. Okay? So, this thing's doing $7,000 revenue every week for 48 weeks a year. Take that number and just make it make sense. Cut the corners here, there, and the other. You know, bring it up to scale of 40 to 120 trucks. I think you can get into the good contracts like LG and stuff at 120 trucks. So if you're an assets-backed brokerage, you know what I mean? And then you just hire used car salesmen and train them to do freight and go out here and talk to these people and get the contracts from the shipper. So now you're shipper direct. And then you got 120 trucks, so you can cover, 80 loads from this shipper, and equipment's cheap right now. It won't be in 6 months. You can buy equipment right now, $40,000, $50,000 trucks, and when the next boom hits and everybody's buying a truck, those are $100,000 trucks. That's the way it works. That's what they do. It's cycles. Anyway, in this process of becoming the guy that owns Quickie Mart, and you know the people on the street and stuff like that, and then you start doing stuff like extending credit into the community. You know what I mean? So this guy comes over and he says, hey, here's a cow, and they're like, okay, we'll cut it up and we'll either keep half the meat to sell retail, or you can pay us X amount, you know what I mean, or whatever, you know what I mean, and then we establish, hey, this cow is worth $1,000, this work is worth $500. Hey, just make a ledger of what it's worth and pay the tax on it, the sales tax, the income tax, and make sure USDA sniffs its ass, and it's all completely legal. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just like back in the day. I get so pissed off because working with these trucks, I understand compliance. Okay, now you get on the farm, they don't understand compliance. So your average Amish person is about like the moonshiners used to be. My grandpa used to run moonshine, and all he had to do was buy a tax stamp and it was legal. But it was directly after Prohibition and all that, and they're just like, no. They didn't trust that this little sticker was going to be enough to get past the local gate. And so basically they didn't want to rat themselves out to the government and say, hey, I'm running moonshine. So there's a way to get around regulation, but the regulation was used for identification. Same thing we see today. So they're like, how many cows do you have? You got to give it this vaccination. You got to do this. You got to do that. It's identification. Keeps progressing all the way up to, well, you can't sell your cow because you don't have the mark of the beast. Well, you can't buy your cow because you don't have the mark of the beast. Well, somebody's got to have this infrastructure going, running to a level that looks right, so the backdoor stuff can happen. Okay, so like, look at the cartels. You know what I mean? They are doing logistics undercover. They have, nobody is like checking, okay, you got 47 pounds of fentanyl at the border and giving them a stamp. You know what I mean? But they are bringing car parts or whatever, right? So somehow or another, they got a back door, but they got to have a legit looking front door. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way criminals operate. So when it's illegal to be a Christian and they're going to cut your head off, you can't buy, you can't sell, you're going to need to know the principles of the outlaws. So you'll be in law because you followed God's law, which makes you an outlaw and an enemy to the man. You know what I mean? To whatever governance that will be cutting off Christians' heads. So if you don't want your head cut off, you got to do what you got to do. Well, the boss is calling. Rock out. Go get him.